Today we will be covering the Microsoft Dynamics GP Inventory Year-End Closing. There is a specific order in which all the modules within Dynamics GP should be closed. First, you will close the Inventory module. Next will be the Receivables Management module, also sometimes referred to as Accounts Receivable, the Payables Management module, your Fixed Assets module, the General Ledger module, with the Analytical Accounting module if you are currently using that, and the Payroll module. Please note that the Payroll year-end close is independent of all other closing processes for other modules within Microsoft Dynamics GP. First thing that you will want to do will be to post all transactions for the year. Then you will reconcile your inventory quantities, complete a physical inventory count, and then post any adjustments, print additional reports, make a backup, close the year, and as an optional function, you can close your fiscal periods for the inventory series module to prevent any items being posted to closed periods, and then you will want to make a final backup. So let's take a look. The first step of the process is to post all transactions for the year. Make sure that all invoicing transactions, sales order processing transactions, and inventory transactions for the current year have been entered and then posted before you close the year. This is to ensure that historical information is accurate for the year you are closing, and year-to-date amounts are accurately stated for the new year. If you want to enter future period transactions before closing your year, create a new batch that has those new transactions entered in it. However, do not post the batch until after your year has been closed. The second step is to reconcile your inventory quantities. Reconcile quantities for all items by using the Reconcile Inventory Quantities window to make sure that your inventory control data has not become damaged during the year. To open the Reconcile Inventory Quantities window, follow one of these steps. For versions of GP 2010 and earlier, you can go to the Inventory module off of the navigation pane and open up the Inventory submenus under that module, or you can go to Microsoft Dynamics GP, Tools, Utilities, Inventory, and Reconcile. The version I'm currently using here for these processes today is Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013. So under the submenu in the Inventory module, under Utilities, I can click the Reconcile button, and this will also bring up the Reconcile Inventory Quantities window. You do have the option to include all items, or you can include a range of items. You'll also have the option to include item history. If you check the box to include the item history, this will include all historical transactions during the reconciliation process. Next, you want to click the Process button. If any differences are found during the Reconcile process, the quantities will be adjusted. If adjustments are made, they will be reflected on the Reconcile report. Additionally, any serial numbers and lot numbers that were added for the adjusted items are included. If you want to change these serial numbers and lot numbers, you can use the Item Transaction Entry window. You would enter Decrease Adjustment Transactions to remove the existing serial numbers and the existing lot numbers. Then you would enter Increase Adjustment Transactions to enter the correct serial numbers and the correct lot numbers. To open the Item Transaction Entry window, that can be found under the Transaction section of the Inventory module and Transaction Entry. The third step of the process is to complete a physical inventory count and then post any adjustments. You will use the Stock Calendar Maintenance window to set up and then maintain information about when stock counts can be performed and about which days will be counted when the system calculates suggested dates for the next stock count for a specific item site combination. To open the Stock Calendar Maintenance window, Go to the Setup portion of your inventory module and select the Stock Calendar option. If you have not already done so, please set up your stock calendar maintenance so that you can perform your stock cycle counts. The stock count cycle assignment window can be used if you want to assign one stock count frequency to many items. To open the stock count cycle assignment window, point to Inventory on the Cards menu and then click Count Cycle Assignment. Create a stock count schedule. A stock count schedule is a list of the specific items at a specific site that will be counted during a specific count. When you start a stock count schedule, the quantity on hand for each line in the stock count schedule is captured. Later, the actual count number quantities will be compared to the captured values to create default variance transactions. Stock count forms can be printed during this process. Use the stock count entry window to enter information about the results of your stock counts. To open the stock count entry window, go to the Inventory module under Transactions and Stock Count Entry. When you process a stock count, variance transactions are created. If the Auto Post Stock Count Variances checkbox is selected, the transactions will also be posted. You can also manually create your adjusting entries instead of doing the stock calendar. To do this, first print a physical inventory checklist by using the inventory activity reports. You have the option in this reporting window to tell it that you want to include your item quantities and your serial lot numbers, so that if you want the individuals that will be doing your inventory count to be able to see that their inventory serial or lot numbers that are on your shelves match the ones that are on the report. The only withdrawal or holdback about including the item quantities is that the individual that is doing the count would actually see what the true count was within the system, and you want to make sure that they are doing an actual count of the items that are on the shelf so that you have an actual depiction of your inventory. Once you have done the count and printed the report, and I'll print it for you so you can see what it looks like. This particular report does not include the quantities or the serial or lot numbers. So in this column here is where the individual can mark how many they count of each item. Once they have done that count, then they are ready to enter those adjustments in the item transaction entry window. Under the Inventory module, Transactions, and Transaction Entry. You'll enter each item that has a difference between what the report from the system shows and what is actually counted. When you have finished, then you'll want to post those transactions. The fourth step is to print any additional reports that you may want to keep for reference. The suggested reports to be printed and stored to a file are as follows. Your stock status report, which can be found under Activity, Stock Status, the Purchase Receipts Report, which can also be found under the Activity Reports, the Turnover Report, which is found under the Analysis section of Reports, your Transaction History Report, which is found under the History, and the last two are your serial number list and your lot number list, which can both be found under the serial lot section of your reporting functions. The next step is to make a backup. To do this, you can either have someone in your IT department create the backup from the SQL Server, Or if you have access to the SQL Server and can log on as a system administrator, you can do it from within Microsoft Dynamics GP. To create the backup, you'll go to log in as the system administrator, which is the SA user. Go to Microsoft Dynamics GP, Maintenance, and Backup. You'll then have to know what the system password is. You will select the company name of the company database you want to back up. Then you will enter a path name to where you want the backup file to be created, and then click OK. The system will return a message telling you whether or not your backup has failed or completed successfully. Once you've made your backup, you're ready to close your year. Closing the year performs the following task. It transfers all summarized current year quantity, cost, and sales amounts to transaction history for the items for which you have been keeping summarized sales history. It updates the amount in the item's beginning quantity field to the quantity on hand field at each site. Certain reports, such as the turnover report, use the amount in the beginning quantity field for report calculations. It will zero the quantity sold field in item quantities maintenance window for each site. It removes purchase receipts and cost change history for items that have been completely sold. It removes any discontinued items from the item records that have been completely sold. It removes any lot attributes from the records of lot numbered items if they have been completely sold. And last, it updates the standard cost of each item to the current cost if you use either the FIFO periodic method or the LIFO periodic valuation method. So to get to the year-end close window, under the inventory module, under the routine submenu, and year-end close. There are several options in this window that you have to either check or leave unchecked depending on what your preference is. If you mark the discontinued items box, all discontinued items that have a zero balance will be removed during the year-end closing process. Items can be designated as discontinued by using the item maintenance window. Under the cards option and item, when you bring up an item, under the item type is where you will mark the item as discontinued and save it. Discontinued items that have a quantity on hand of 0, except for kit components, and have no unposted transactions will be completely removed from the inventory module. If you use the service call management module, determine whether they are discontinued items existing on any unposted service documents. If discontinued items exist on any unposted service documents, the documents must be posted before you can continue. The sales order processing report, the invoicing report, or the purchase order processing report and inquiries will still be able to display information about these discontinued items. However, you will be unable to perform a lookup on the item number because it has been removed from the item master table. If you want to print a report or inquire on the discontinued item, you must include the item within the item number range. Note, if you select this option, you will remove the discontinued items. Additionally, you will remove all inventory history for the items. You will be unable to drill back on the inventory history for these items. If you mark to select the sold receipts and cost change history prior to checkbox to remove all sold purchase receipts and historical cost changes for items that use average perpetual, last in, first out, LIFO, perpetual, or the first in, first out, FIFO, periodic valuation method, and then you enter a date, the sold receipts quantity sold details and historical cost changes with dates that come before the date that you entered will be removed. If you mark to select the sold lot attributes checkbox, values for completely sold lot numbers will be removed. For example, you can remove the value red for the lot attribute color if you have sold all lot numbered items that have been assigned the value red. The Update Item Standard Cost checkbox will take the standard costs for any item that have been assigned the FIFO periodic valuation method or the LIFO periodic valuation method and adjust it automatically to reflect each item's current cost or the amount you most recently paid for the item. If you're registered for the manufacturing module, you will be unable to select the item standard cost checkbox. For more information, see the following article number 930998, which can be found off of Customer Source at Microsoft.com. Once you have made all of your selections for the options that you have, you will click the Process button to start the year-end closing process. When the year is being closed, you will be unable to post, reconcile quantities, change valuation methods, or change decimal places for any items in your system. Please note that the date used to time step the year-end closing process for the inventory module will be reflected in this field here. That date is pulled from the system date that is assigned at the time of processing within Microsoft Dynamics GP. If you would like for this date to reflect the last day of your fiscal reporting period or year, then you can go to the user date and click on that date, and the user date calendar will open up, and you can change that here to reflect whatever the last day is of your fiscal year. That date will be reflected in this field right here. The next step is an optional step, but one that is recommended to be done. It is closing the fiscal periods for the inventory series. To do this step, you will go to the Administration navigation pane, and then under the Setup portion, scroll all the way down to your company setup and fiscal periods. Here in this window, you see all of the periods that are set up for your current fiscal reporting year. In the inventory module, you can go down and make sure that all of these months are closed. Again, this is an optional step, but it does help prevent from getting transactions posted to prior or future periods. The very last thing you want to do during the process is to make a final backup of your company data files and keep it in a safe, permanent storage place. This gives you a permanent record of the company's financial position at the time that you closed your inventory module. Some tips that you may want to keep in mind during the year-end inventory closing process is that the year-end close must be done before any transactions for the new year have been posted. You also will want to note that there is no year-end closing report that is generated during the process for the inventory module. This concludes the presentation of the closing processes for this module. Please refer to our other Microsoft Dynamics GP videos for the year-end closing procedures of the other modules.